Monthly meeting of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission, regular meeting, Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. First, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Need a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next is the approval of the meeting minutes for May 20th. Need a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes of May 20th.
Need a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. And we'll move into the Commissioner Service Recognition to Mr. Gerald Meyerman.
Hey, who's that guy?
Just have a few words to say for you, sir. To a man who we're glad made his home here in 2007, to a man who is a glutton for punishment, having served as a former appointed member of the county's airport advisory committee and the economic development commission, who finally got a decent gig here at the Metropolitan Commission Board. To a man whose ridiculously humbling resume, which it is, if you've ever met it, reflects that he has always been a leader, a manager, a policymaker, purveyor of financial advice, to include stints as World Bank manager, policy advisor for USAID, and the CEO for several international consulting firms, to a teacher of law, business, a professor of finance, economics, and a publisher of articles. I don't think everybody knew that. A man who's fluent in English, French, Spanish, and Dutch, a former pilot, and still a practicing lawyer. He was German. German?
It's okay.
To a man who, over 30 years of experience in economic business, investment, financial experience, and who showed and shared with us that experience. We can't thank you enough. To a man who's rubbed elbows with heads of nations, states, and tribes in over 157 countries, not to mention celebrities, and whose childhood adventures and what we call, who talk to you after these meetings, 007 assignments and Mission Impossible stories, you just would not believe. We thank you, sir. As a group of employees, we have certainly appreciated your volunteering your time with us and for us. We can't thank you enough for that. And as a leader of the commission, your comments and observations have always been constructive and forward-looking. We wish you great success in your continued role as a proprietor of the Swannondale Inn, Bed and Breakfast, off of Airedale Road in the heart of the Mother County, British. We have a plaque for you, obviously, it's a departing plaque, and it's very simple. It reads as follows. St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission presented to Gerald E. Meyerman on behalf of Metcom employees in recognition of your outstanding public service as a board member and chairman, July 1, 2021 through February 28, 2025.
Yes, you can. No, you summed up a few things about my life, which is sort of interesting, but I also said when I left here some months ago, how much I saw this organization as truly an outstanding organization. I had the opportunity to work all over the world, 159 different countries. And like you said, I speak 5 languages. I've published in 4 languages and have dealt with a lot of international organizations and a lot of service organizations such as Metcom all over the world. But rarely have I seen one where the financial planning was 1 year ahead rather than 5 years behind. And I've seen the staff committing themselves really to the objectives of this organization. So it was truly very good for me to retire and to be with a group of interesting and capable people, and having worked with all of you to see how you contribute to the welfare of this community. So thank you very much for the opportunity to do this. Thank you.
Very good. No gold rush.
Come and see us. Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to get a picture taken there.
And I'm sure the board members would also like to show their appreciation if you could walk down the gauntlet. Shake their hands. Chrissy's down at the end. It's not very customary for Metcon to provide flowers, but this is coming from me. I wanted to have you something to bring home and to thank your wife for volunteering you. And for all her health and your health, we wish you great success.
Great. She was on her way down here, but then it turned out that we had some more guests coming into the house, so she turned around and went home. So sorry about that. All right, but come and see us
Thank you,
again.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay. And
Thank you.
hang in there.
Hang in.
Yeah. And good luck.
Gerald, I'll see you at BJ's.
That's for sure. Yeah,
We did tend to run into each
always,
other.
always run into each other there.
Pleasure working with you.
How are you? See you at the next fire, right?
Sure.
Likely be you.
Yeah. I'll be there turning an hour.
There you go.
Come over and see us.
At the next fire, BJ's, everywhere else.
Yeah.
Thank you. And flowers. Oh, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you
Absolutely.
did. And the little man here.
Yeah, that little man.
Running for office.
Good pleasure. See you around in the show.
You know, the very first time I came to Metcom in 2009, I think it was,
Yeah, probably somewhere around.
this is the lady that I met. And it was her first day of work.
It's pretty early
And I said, and her name is Holland. And I said, are you Dutch? And she said, no. I said, I am. You know, so then we ran into each other again some years later.
Yep, we did. Thank you.
Welcome to the organization, and you have a really good team. Thank you. As always, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And you are the one that always talk the most. Which was appreciated.
He wants all the money.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, next we have, Patty's outgoing chief of finance, so.
Tell me the luncheon yesterday.
I didn't want to miss anything, so I'm gonna read it again. To a lady that brought with her 21 years of experience to the commission with tours of duty at, not in, the St. Mary's County Jail, the county's Department of Central Services, 4 years at the Department of Public Works, where she served with me, the Department of Finance as a budget analyst, and then as Deputy Director of Finance. To a lady who wanted nothing more than to help choose a successor, and who worked fairly tirelessly over the past month with Sean, which you'll meet a little later, to ensure that the transition was as smooth as it could be. To a lady who loves the outdoors, whether it be her former life as a marathon runner, a frequent hiker of trails, a climber of mountains, a kayaker of rivers, as a bicycle rider extraordinaire, or as a triathlete, and a love of both bourbon and espresso. To a lady, I'm not so sure how much she loved to cook, but when she does, it's always restaurant quality. To a lady, and this goes to Mr. Meyerman's commentary, to a lady who self-positioned this commission's credit rating to a rating level of AA3, which is one notch above where we were formally assigned before. To a lady who has always found a way to get it done, whether it be policy, procedure, processing, customer, or personnel related, and whose laughter is and will be remembered as contagious. For that, we thank you. As a group of employees, we have certainly appreciated your service with us over the past 7 years. As we said yesterday, I don't believe I've ever heard a negative comment or word about your integrity or honesty or your work ethic. To a lady whose last name is so easy to spell, it's simple, it's I before E except after C, I finally got it right, and now she's leaving. As a manager for the commission, and if I might quote former Commissioner Meyerman, he once said that he's never been involved in an organization whose fiscal management has been so clearly and transparently presented and managed as it is here in Metcon. So thanks to you for that, we thank you. We wish you your success in your next adventure. Everyone's wondering where Patty's going. It's Perry, Ohio, for those who have not seen it, and to keep you from Googling on your phone. It is 36 miles northeast of Cleveland, 2 hours and 51 minutes south of Niagara Falls, nestled on the shores of Lake Erie with a population of a whopping 1,596 people.
Wow.
We have a plaque for you that reads similarly. St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission presents to Patricia Stigman on behalf of Metcom employees in recognition of your friendship and outstanding leadership as Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, October 5th, 2018 through June 30th, 2025. Let's give her a round of applause. And would you like to be as verbose as former Commissioner Marmon? Anything to say?
It's just, as I said yesterday, it's such a pleasure. I love the small community that Metcom is and the outreach to the entire community that they provide. Everybody is almost like family here, and the board has been extremely generous the entire time that I've been here. And I know all our employees appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Pat.
I'll miss everything.
We'll make you feel appreciation, and Chrissy has some flowers for you. Only this time, it's not the gauntlet, it'll be a reception one. I would just
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for.
Godspeed, have fun up there in that huge town.
Yes.
How many languages do you speak?
In the snow. Thank you.
Who's this guy?
The late guy.
Hey Patty, don't miss Joe.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again, Patty.
Okay, now we have the length of service award for Mr. Mike. And I'll handle this myself, okay?
Mr. Mike. Okay, I like it.
Who's going?
I wouldn't give him nothing. Maybe give 20.
No, Mike, I'm gonna recognize this myself. I get a little something, a little pen for you. I get a little plaque, and I think he's gonna read.
Mike Stroud, affectionately known as Stroke, began his career with the Metropolitan Commission on September 28, 2004 as a contract utilities maintenance specialist. In this role within the Inflow and Infiltration Department, he gained valuable knowledge of Metcom's collection system. On June 7, 2005, he became a full-time employee, continuing as a utilities maintenance specialist and working alongside the mechanics, where he quickly learned the nuances of grinder pumps and the maintenance aspects of wastewater stations. His strong understanding of station operations and willingness to step up enabled him to perform the mechanics' duties in their absence. On March 4th, 2019, Mike was promoted to Utilities Mechanical Electrical Technician, where he took on the responsibility of maintaining and rebuilding grinder pumps throughout the system. His experience made him a reliable resource, often filling in to maintain wastewater stations across the collection system. Mike generously shared his knowledge and helped train new employees to ensure they become valuable assets to the department. On September 17, 2021, Mike was promoted to wastewater operator. In this position, he oversees the operations of wastewater stations and their equipment. His previous mechanical expertise gave him a head start, and he continued to excel. Mike takes great pride in his work, demonstrates unwavering dedication, and has become an invaluable member of the commission staff. Outside of work, Mike enjoys camping with his wife Heather and their daughter Macy. One of his favorite pastimes is watching Macy pitch for her softball team, cheering her on as she strikes out batters and leads her team to victory. In addition to his professional contributions, Mike has served in his community by volunteering with local fire departments for over 22 years, currently serving in the 2nd District Volunteer Fire Department in Valley Lee. Please join me in extending a warm and heartfelt congratulations to Mike Stroud as we celebrate his 20 years of dedicated service to the Metropolitan Commission.
Halfway there.
All right. Guess moving right along, we got the consent agenda. Everybody have a chance to look at it? Have any questions on it? If not, I guess we move into new business, right?
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented and hereby approve all matters contained upon the consent agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to new business now. Designation of corporate treasurer.
Sure, come on up.
Looks like it's gonna be a long presentation, it'll be short. In our corporate bylaws, in particular, section 4.2.3, there's a requirement that a treasurer has to be appointed by the board. In accordance with chapter 113 of the St. Mary's County Code, which is where we receive all of our authority, in particular section 1E, there's a requirement that a public official bond be posted and approved by the county commissioners. So with that introduction, Patty?
So currently I am bonded, but in the interim, we will transfer the bond authority to the executive director, and that's in the bylaws and in chapter 113 until LaShawn has had a successful probationary period, and then the bond will transfer to LaShawn. So they will be back to you 6 months from now. But I'm remiss, let me introduce LaShawn Bethay. He is your new Chief Financial Officer. LaShawn comes from, most recently, U.S. House of Representatives, and prior to that, he was Deputy Director of Finance at Calvert County Government. So he has experience, and as George mentioned, we've been working together since June 2nd. So side by side, everything we've been doing, trying to prepare him and a little bit getting him familiar with day-to-day operations. So things have been going well.
Welcome aboard. Honored to be here. Some huge shoes to fill. So
Absolutely. And we haven't done the initiation ceremony yet. That's coming later. Okay, just be aware.
And there is a motion attached for the designation of corporate treasurer.
Get a motion?
I'll read it. Move that the commission appoint George Erickson as the interim corporate treasurer of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission until new chief financial officer has been selected and has successfully fulfilled the 6-month probationary period in accordance with section 4.2.3 of the corporate bylaws of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission. Further move that the staff be authorized to forward the public official bond in the amount of $250,000 to be issued to George A. Erickson as the duly appointed corporate treasurer to the commissioners of the St. Mary's County for review and approval in accordance with section 113-1.e of the public local laws of St. Mary's County.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to item number 2 is the reserve policy number FIN-14-03 amendments. Patty?
Yes, so the last time this was updated was the original policy date of 2014. So we thought, again, as we've done every year, we try to review our policies and bring them back to you with any updates. So there was just a minor update on page 4 of the policy in our reserve funds. We have 4 capital reserve funds that are considered restricted reserves for water sewer upgrades and rehab, and water sewer new facilities or expanded facilities. So in order to help build a reserve specifically for the Marley Taylor treatment plant, because we know eventually in the future that is going to be needing upgrades and expansion, and it's going to be quite a significant impact budgetarily wise. So we added some language for Marley Taylor that when our reserves, our required reserves in the policy are met, that we will take 10% of the excess reserve and place it into a fund for Marley Taylor. So that language is described here in other reserve funds. And that is really the only change we've made to the policy, is to help identify separate funds for Marley Taylor.
I see under the target fund level, there's something changed there as well. Correct on that?
Oh, the update, so originally, where it crossed off 2015, and we just updated it with the current information of 2025. That number actually changes every single year, so it's kind of an example of what it is at this point in time.
So what's the reason we need to keep the fund separate from Marley Taylor versus just knowing that we're gonna be needing it? Just wondering if it
well-
limits us in other aspects.
Right, you wouldn't have to, but then you may decide to use it someplace else, and then when Marley Taylor comes up, so we're just trying to plan ahead to make sure
No,
that,
I certainly.
yeah.
We're also.
I'd like to put our budget over in the corner so you're watching it. I appreciate that. I just wondering, does it limit us in terms of our flexibility that maybe we don't need?
I mean, we always try to keep that minimum reserve, the amounts that are listed here in the policy, the $1 million here, 750,000 here, of restricted. So that's why we don't want to change that and dip into that reserve. But if there's an excess each year, to only take 10% of that excess.
I mean,
to
to be honest,
identify.
Commissioner Dugan, we've talked about it. There's a tendency to use your reserves when they build up to the fullest extent possible.
Oh,
However,
I agree with it from that
However,
philosophical.
when we keep that reserve level, there's a portion of that above that line that we want to dedicate each year. We're anticipating Marley Taylor sometime in the 2030s to be a requirement. It's going to be $40 million plus, if not 50. That's a heck of a number to have to borrow. We hope to be able to set aside a few $1 million to help reduce the impact it would have on our capital contribution charges and our other service charges. So that's the idea, so that a future board or a future CFO or a future director, I'm going to assume that I'm not here, let's say it's 20 years out, recalls that there is a specific effort at some point in time being placed on reserving and setting aside some money specifically for that project. And I think the wording is flexible enough. Hydraulic capacity, that terminology is in there. There's a reason that terminology is in there. We have a consent decree coming up, and we don't know what the impact of that is going to be when we do this big system-wide analysis. We want to make sure we also have a dedicated stream of funds there as well. So this is about Marley Taylor, which has hydraulic capacity issues because it's reaching its capacity. And then we have us system-wide associated with consent decree, and it'll be able to answer that question in the future. Has Metcom set monies aside? We'll be able to say absolutely. So it's a twofold reason to put it in a dedicated fund.
And we have a recommended motion, and if you don't have any other questions.
Need a motion?
I'll do it. I'll move that the commission approve and adopt the amendments to the reserve policy number FIN-14-03 as presented by staff, which shall take effect immediately.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? Ayes have it.
I only got one question about that. Should there be a date on there since we say immediately?
In the motion?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's necessary because this is a motion that you all are approving during this meeting and the minutes will reflect as such. So,
I just didn't know if these motions went somewhere else where there's just that folder filed and you wouldn't know that it's from this date.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary. If you want
Okay,
to-
no, I'm asking in terms of, I will file it.
So when we, just so you know, the policy that you have in your binders or in your information, on the very title page, it indicates the date that it was presented for approval, and it will reflect the final approval and effective date. So that's really where it's contained, but it marries back to these minutes. Thanks.
All right, ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you all.
And
Appreciate your input there, LaShawn. It'll come, I know.
Next, we had a construction dump truck purchase.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good
Under
afternoon.
consideration today is the purchase of a construction dump truck. The construction staff responds to various service and repair calls at both water and wastewater facilities throughout the county. These calls occur during and after normal business hours, around the clock, 365 days a year. In calendar year 2024, the construction staff responded to approximately 360 repair calls. The unit scheduled for replacement is a 2012 F550 dump truck. The existing dump truck meets the replacement guidelines as specified in the adopted vehicle equipment replacement guidelines. The new unit is a four-wheel drive crew cab chassis with a 5-yard dump body. Pricing was obtained from Sourcewell. Therefore, pending board approval, the new chassis is expected to be delivered between 8 and 10 months from now and placed into service immediately. Therefore, staff is requesting commission approval for the purchase of a new 2026 International dump truck from Rush Truck Centers of Virginia with a total price of $97,664.95 as submitted in their proposal dated June 10th, 2025. And with that, I will take any questions.
What happens to the 2012?
Excuse me?
What's gonna happen to the 2012? He's just gonna work it till it's done?
We'll put it out to auction.
Price doesn't seem outrageous. If you try to go out and buy your own four-wheel drive pickup truck, they're in the 60s and 70s.
It is a competitively bid price
Yeah.
through Sourcewell. We did also look at just purchasing a chassis and purchasing the body separately. It would save us a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But the lead time would actually be slightly, the lead time for the vehicle or the chassis would be the same. But then we would have to deliver it somewhere to have the chassis or the body installed.
Right.
I see $2,000 for steel and aluminum tariff. Is that the new recent tariffs?
That's a preemptive amount.
Hadn't happened yet.
Right.
In the event that their bid price is not honored due for situations that they can't control, we wanted to make sure we had enough budget authority. Yeah, I just wondered if this was effective for all this new stuff. I wish we did.
All right, we got a motion.
I'll make it. Move that the commission accept and award the procurement of a 2026 International CV 515 chassis in Godwin 150U dealer installed body to Rush Truck Centers of Virginia Incorporated, located in Ashland, Virginia, for the total price of $97,664.95, as submitted in their proposal date June 10th, 2025, and per all pricing terms and conditions of Sourcewell contract number 120721-EVS, and as recommended by staff. Further move to authorize and direct staff to sign all documentation relating to this award, including but not limited to the issuance of a purchase order and all approved changes and amendments.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Any discussion? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very good.
All right, moving on to continuing business, correction to definition of prior intent resolution number 2025-01. Okay.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a quick one. We brought this resolution to you in May, right after you approved the capital budget. And it was assigned, as you said, 2025-01. We already had 2 resolutions prior in this calendar year. So this is actually 2025-03. So we want to make that administrative correction with you.
And that is easy.
And there is a motion for you to accept the correction.
I can make that one. Correction to the designation of prior intent resolution number 2025-01. Move that the board authorize staff to correct the designation of prior intent resolution number 2025-01 and Exhibit A, capital improvement projects listing as approved by the board on May 20th, 2025, to reflect the appropriate designation of prior intent resolution number 2025-03 and Exhibit A.
Second. Got a first, got a second. Any discussion? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Move on to
Thank you.
corporate bylaws amendments.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon again.
This is a follow-up to the May 20th, 2025 meeting presentation by Mr. Bieber, our legal counsel. He presented several text amendments to the corporate bylaws, primarily to incorporate some suggested clarifying language. And as you scroll through the text, you'll see that's all the red line strike through text. That's not information that is new. There's a requirement for a 20-day period to lapse before the commission can vote on the language. As we went through, and that time frame has expired. As we reviewed it one more time, there were two additional changes that we wanted to make. I'm going to briefly go through the prior changes to let you know, especially those who weren't here, what they were. Section 1.3 just reflected our current titles of our personnel positions. Mr. Policio, like the next two, one of them was the elimination throughout the document of the and/or with just or. The other was capitalization, eliminating all capitalization of things that are not, or terms that are not defined in the front of the document. For example, corporate officers is not something that's defined, so it shouldn't be capitalized in the rest of the document. Also, section 3.3.1 and 3.3.2 were just some clarifications on the voting process and the voting procedures for the selection of the chairperson and the nominations of that. The two changes that we'd like you to consider today, and there's a motion involved which would create another 20-day period, which is not problematic for us. The first is in section 1.3, and Laura's highlighted that for you, so it's easy to see. It's about adding the human resources officer to the list of positions or staff members that we would like to have as part of METCOM. Ironically enough, this is considered a substantive change, because what you're now saying is the commission would like, as a minimum, to also have that position. I don't know how many jurisdictions or organizations would not want to have, as a requirement, at a minimum, a human resources officer. Interestingly enough, in the balance of the text, there's an entire section on the responsibilities of the human resources officer. So we have a whole section dedicated to that. Why wouldn't we have that as a required person on our staff? The other is in section 2.3.6. It's called meeting attendees. We like to have all our managers come to meetings, and when we went through this, we noticed that our chief informational officer, Mr. Harding, who is again here today, as he always is, unless he physically cannot be present, we have all of our managers come, and I would think that the board would also like the managers to attend. Very insignificant, but at the same time, they're substantive enough that since it's not the exact language we gave you before, that it needs to have another 20-day period lapse, and then we'll bring that back to you in July for your consideration. But those are the two minor changes. Otherwise, you would have had a motion in your package to vote for the amendments that we presented back in May.
Do we already have a chief human relations officer?
Anne Mary Collins is our human resources officer.
I thought so, but I didn't know if she had that title or it was already her title.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we'll see you in 20 days.
Correct. And there's a motion in your packages as well.
Need a motion?
Move that the commission consider the proposed amendments to the commission bylaws the precise text of which has been presented to the board this day, June 18th, 2025, and discussed during this meeting. Further move that the 20-day notice period as required by Section 9.2 of the Commission bylaws for the amendment of the Commission bylaws commence as of today.
I'll second that motion.
Got a first, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? Ayes have it.
We apologize for the oversight, but we felt it was appropriate to make those changes.
All right, next we got the update on anonymous employee communications platform.
Today is a follow-up to an informal inquiry by the board regarding the possible implementation of an autonomous platform, that's what we're calling it, whereby employees could communicate directly with the board. At present, we have several provisions in our employee manual, and I'll rattle them off. You don't have to look them up. 1.2, 1.6, 1.7, 1.10, 1.11, dealing with our open door policies, our whistleblower protections, our anti-discrimination and harassment-free, actually not anti, our protections against discrimination and harassment, workplace guarantees, no retaliation policies for those that are complaining and griping. It actually has that language in there. There are grievance procedures if folks are aggrieved. We have a very clear process where employees can go to their supervisor, the supervisor can go to their manager, the manager can go to the director can go to HR, or any combination thereof. And the way we have that set up is if there's ever a position that is overstepped, for example, if an employee goes directly to the director, first question I ask is, did you talk to your manager, your supervisor? If there's a reason, and they were perhaps the subject of the conversation, then that's acceptable. But if they haven't, we kind of push that back down and let it go through the process. In addition, we have monthly board meetings. We have suggestion boxes, which are anonymous, that individuals can use at every one of our buildings. We have employee satisfaction surveys, although we don't do those every year. We also have monthly meetings and supervisor meetings and safety meetings and plenty of meetings in-house where hopefully people feel comfortable vetting their concerns and our frustrations. We also have at least once a year, if not twice a year, two-way performance evaluations where individuals can talk immediately with their supervisor to voice any concerns they have. Externally, we have two venues. One is called comments@metcom.org. Those comments are for the general public to raise comments. Your corporate secretary, Laura, and myself receive those. We feel like we're the ones directly responsible for making sure that questions directly to the board get addressed. We follow up. We also have under the website a section called Contact Us, which is under a place where your bios are. All the commissioners have their bios. Just contact us. That goes directly to the corporate secretary. It goes directly to Laura. It's not anonymous because we can see where the email is coming from by their email address. We obviously know where it came from. But those are external. Typically, anonymous platforms are to allow employees to ensure their concerns are voiced without fear, retaliation, or judgment. It is very difficult to get truly anonymous platforms because both Joe and myself would have to be anonymous, but yet we're communicating back and forth. There's a lot lost, I think, in that dialogue. We've had this raised in the past, and two issues have come up. One, the board as a general rule, not necessarily the board here, was not very comfortable giving us carte blanche to hand their personal emails out to the public and or all the employees. That was one. In addition, there has been some concerns raised. I'm trying to put this in the right wording, that the board may not necessarily want to intervene with the day-to-day management responsibilities that you have entrusted to staff. So there's that piece of it too. We've thought about it for a while. In fact, we've done some research. Thanks to Rick and Ann Mary for all the work they've done. We have two suggestions for you today. Neither one of them have to be acted on. The first one is that we create a commissioners@metcom.org email for employees to use. It will go directly to your corporate secretary, just as comments do externally, and they will get circulated to you, and the correspondence can start at that point in time. For example, it could involve me.
So this allows me to not be a purveyor or a purviewer or a reviewer of any of those comments, so that I don't influence it. That's one way we could do that. The second one is we have found a truly anonymous platform. It is called Safe Hotline. And I hate to say it only costs, because it may be a reason that you might want to consider that, but it only costs between $40 and $50 a month. It would require some training, technical training on your part. There'd be some additional responsibilities. You would have to track, monitor, respond, do the investigation, and value the merits of the complaint. In addition to that, it's got text messaging options. It's a 24-hour hotline, and it gives the ability to upload documents. So there's a lot that goes with that, including probably multi-factor authentication and whatnot. It's not intended to scare you, but our recommendation, I think, at this time might be to at least start out with the commissioners@metcom.org email, see how many response complaints or concerns that we get. I think I can speak on behalf of all of management. Of all the platforms I mentioned earlier, there's not necessarily a high degree of participation. I can't believe it's because individuals are afraid that there'll be retaliation. I don't think that's the case. But I wouldn't know because we're not getting the comments. When we do a SurveyMonkey, I think we talked, Joe Mattingly and I talked a little bit earlier. The SurveyMonkey has the ability to be fairly autonomous in terms of the responders. We do that with our employee satisfaction surveys. That's where you get a lot of input when you do those semi-annually, every 2 years, every 5 years. Get a lot of input there. We spend the majority of the time in the years after vetting those and determining how much action we should take with each one of those respondents. So that's another way this could be handled, but it would be an open-ended SurveyMonkey that would have to be constantly monitored. So we thought maybe the email platform might be a good way to start. The employees will not be able to truly be anonymous through that platform because every employee has an email like mine, g.erickson@metcom.org. When they come to Laura, if I would perhaps want to voice my concerns, Laura would see that coming from g.erickson@metcom.org. I don't think that's a problem. Our corporate secretary is honest to a fault when it comes to representing you and protecting you and your interests. That's not a question. There's no integrity issues there. She's not going to share. You can't believe what I just read. So it would truly be, the spirit and intent would be to get information to you as easy as possible and make it as autonomous as possible, but it won't be 100% autonomous. Our suggestion is maybe let's see how this works. Definitely put it in the newsletter, let the employees know that it's there and how it'll work, and then go from there. Maybe bring back a couple of different options if that's not successful, or we're still hearing from employees that they really like to see it. It's not budgeted. I'm not going to say that to you here. It's $40 to $50 a month. It's not about its affordability, but it wasn't a budgeted item and it wasn't a new initiative that we brought to you. We like to bring all of those to you every year, so there's no surprises. That's all I really had today, and we're actually looking for some input on perhaps maybe some other ways you think we might want to explore this.
When's the last time that you all did a employee survey?
We are due at the end of this year. That would be 5 years, so first thing in 2026.
Okay. I mean, do we think if we get some negative feedback, then we can look into
That was our
doing
thought.
a $40 a month?
That was our thought, but we thought this would be a good idea to be in place in the meantime because at least it's a forum.
Right.
And then we'll get that feedback and then we'll respond from there. And we can actually, we were able to sort last time we did this, the nature of the comments and then lump them together for a presentation to the board. You know, personnel would be one category, communication would be another category, and we'll lump all the comments together and present them to you. And you're right, if we see a significant enough number of folks that are interested in a truly autonomous platform, we at least know.
I don't want to see us spending $40 a month and getting 4 emails.
I understood.
Throughout the year.
But it's nice to know that we can respond and that we have an answer that's potentially viable and affordable. So,
Is there a reason we only do that surveys every 5 years, not do it annually?
you can do it every year if you want, but typically every year it's very similar. You need at least a year to respond to it. That's why I said biannually.
every 2 to 5 years. I think we used to do them a little sooner. Anne Mary's not here, a little bit more frequently than every 5. But I think I've been here 7 or 8 years, and I think we've done 2 or 3. So the frequencies,
I just feel that if it's taken us 2 years to solve a problem, that's not solving a problem.
well, it's not necessarily solving a problem. Sometimes they're not really problems. You have to do a lot of investigation sometimes to see what the nature and intent of the comment really was. You know, for example, upper management, doesn't know my name. I'm throwing that out there. That's not unusual. It's not unusual. What does that mean? Well, maybe you should get out in the field a little bit more, but there's no formal reply. And then you try to get out in the field a little bit more, and why are you going out in the field so much?
The perfect answer for that is, who are you?
Yeah. But the idea is we batch them all up, and we don't leave it on this side of the table. We batch them up and we bring those to you because you're part and parcel to helping us determine which ones we really need to focus on, high level versus low level. And the majority of them are not substantive and don't cost us a lot to address. But you're always going to have communication, pay. You'll see the same comments all the time, but we don't dismiss them. We bring them to you regardless of their merit. I think it's improper to not give you all the comments, but we'll be doing that in early 26, not that far away. We'll try to get it outside the budget process if we can.
I think that maybe we should go to at least every 2 years for a survey. I don't know how y'all feel about that. Like 2 years is good.
When we bring it up,
Yeah.
vote on it, we'll do it. No problem.
I can say, just as being a person that for many years handled 150 plus personnel for different fashions, you're not going to please everybody.
Can't happen.
I've always been the opinion that if you can please 51%, you'll get voted in the next year. So, but
51, man.
you kind of need 50. So.
Well, it is a
But,
lengthy.
you're not going to make them all. You're not going to make every. I mean, there's going to be people who's just going to have complaints just to complain. You know what I mean?
Well, we want more
I think
participation.
Vaughn down there can attest to that as the president can.
Oh, yeah.
I think we had 80 some odd percent participation. It was high. It was a very high percentage, and the survey was fairly cumbersome. I won't say very, fairly in terms of the number of questions. What we probably want to do is not limit the number of questions, but make them a little broader, because sometimes when you say a survey and you scroll through those first 2 pages and then you realize there's 4 more, I'm not going to comment. Something we want to encourage, but we sort of do. We want that input. So we're going to look at this last survey that we did and see if we can't simplify it and make it a little more user-friendly so they don't have to take an hour to put it together. But yeah,
Can
it's a
you
good-
move this survey up, say next month, month after, to get a basis to look at instead of waiting till end of the year?
Well, we're going to prepare the survey first.
Oh,
Look at the last one, prepare it. And if the board's interested in the questions, we can certainly bring that back ahead of time and let you look at the questions and see if you want to add or delete from them. If you'd like us to do that, I'll take that as informal direction. It's not a bad idea.
But I think the discussion really is different than about the survey. That's one piece of it. But the discussion really is about what is the avenue that employees have to reach out outside of their comfort zone of their own direct reports.
Correct.
And 2 things happen, as you know and I know is for some people are going to reach out because they just feel like reaching out, as opposed to actually having done the proper steps and talk to their manager or talk to the people, and so from having an aspect of them being easily accessed, I probably want to spoke up last time about discouraging that for that reason. But I also want that someone has an avenue to be able to go outside of who they normally would report to, where they legitimately need to report that, for whatever reason. I guess my feeling is in a way, where is it that Chris would come into play here as in his role, similar to what we've done on some of the HR things with Chris, in terms of filtering that they have an avenue, if without, you know, feeling comfortable, you know, because honestly, if somebody sends me an email, whatever, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to have a discussion with the managers here, you know, and so I don't know whether it's better doing it that way or whether them being able to reach Chris first or, you know, as a byproduct or whatever.
Well,
I don't have an answer. I'm just.
In the current process, we use them where there's potential legal issues involved, but as a general day-to-day business practice, I wouldn't have him or suggest he be the source, primary source. He would therefore not be autonomous or anonymous then either, right? What does the board do if the board gets an anonymous email from an unknown party and it specifically cites an individual? How do you respond to that without talking to the individual? Most of the time, at least in my experience of the past 35 years, if you came to me and said, need to talk to you about a topic, I'd know who probably made the comment, whether it was anonymous or not.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. You see the dilemma, right, about being truly anonymous.
Yeah, no, again, I feel like it still has to be harder for them to do that, and harder might not be the right word, but that they've made the efforts, or that, you know, unless they're not comfortable with that or whatever, as opposed to this is the easy way for me to go about whatever. So, you know.
It has a tendency to bypass, you know, a lot of process.
Yeah.
But I would think that
because otherwise it takes away from, I mean, for example, a lot of them I can imagine should be going to HR, you know, and it would tend to take away their responsibility, and that's not the right thing to do either. So.
You have to look at the various levels too. For example, if we're at the manager level and the perception is that the director and the manager are, you know, eye to eye on a particular topic, and you want to bypass that to the next level, certainly for me, the next level wouldn't necessarily be HR, right? Could be, but it would be you. And the best way to do that is through an email that Laura gets that I don't see. You know, if you start doing it at any other level, it gets easier because the manager comes and sees me. And if it's an HR issue, then I go see Anne Mary, and we both talk about it. And we bring the employee in, or the parties involved in. We don't have a lot of issues, I don't think.
Right. I mean,
again, we could sell it. It's only $40 or $50 a month, but I agree with Mr. Mattingly that perhaps we start off as we suggested. If we see the results of the survey, I think that's where we dovetail. If we see in the results of the survey that this is something employees really want, then we can look at it then. And then if we can maybe narrow down the time frame from every 5 years, every 2 or 3, maybe that's something that they're looking for, because they always like to hear back that their comments and concerns have either been addressed or heard. Maybe more frequent interaction would do that. But we have a lot of meetings where they're not all smooth. We get into some really good discussions, and
Sure.
There's no repercussions, you know, having had those conversations with our employees. So we'd like to do something, implement something, but we're short term for the survey, and we're very near term for activating this in an interim basis. But we don't need any direction at this point. But if you're comfortable with the email approach for now and giving the staff the autonomy to do that, we'll at least start with that. Thank you, sir. That's all we have today. No votes. Just general concurrence is really all we need. That's all we have.
all right.
Sorry, that was the longest item.
All right. Well, this has to be the shortest presidency in the history of Metcon.
And I will hear it could have been a lot shorter.
This seat hasn't even gotten warm yet, and I'm late already. All right, what we got here, my term runs out today for people that don't know it, so we have to elect a new chairman. And since I'm chairman now, I'll read it. I will now open the floor to nomination for the position of chairman for FY 2026 and the remainder, I guess, of 2025.
No, sir. This meeting is the end of 2025, so what your elections are actually, so the
Fiscal year.
Fiscal
year.
Oh,
Begins
that's right,
July.
July starts, and I keep forgetting that. Okay.
He wants to stay. That's all that's
I'll
about.
be like Trump, I'm not vacating. I'm gonna sit
There
here,
you
you'll see me sitting here tomorrow. But, anyway, just for my personal thing, for me, it's been a pleasure to be on the Metcom board. And, yeah, but I'd like to stay, yeah, of course, but everything has its, limits and stuff. And the only thing I like to say, you always like to leave it better than you found it, or whatever the case may be. And I tell you the truth, it was good when I got here. And I still think the Metcom is, from my perception, just like Gerald said, I would think it's a great place to work. And I know some of the outside, and I always call them outside employees, I've never heard a bad word, bad comment or anything myself. But, anyway, I know I've enjoyed it. So, anyway, we need a nomination for a chairman.
And you all do have motions in your materials, and it's also up on the screen for your.
Do we have somebody who's taking over, Ward?
We actually do.
The commissioners actually have selected an individual.
So the county commissioners have selected someone. The county commissioners are awaiting his acceptance letter. And once we get that, we'll share all of that information with you all. But right now, yes, there is somebody that's gonna apply. All right, don't all jump at one time.
Looks like I might have to stay.
You always ask who doesn't want the role and then nominate who's left.
Well, I would say the vice person would step up to the chairperson, so.
I don't have a problem stepping up, but there's members that have been on this board longer than I. I've only been here a year, and I don't want to step up if they want the opportunity at you. I would rather afford them and their knowledge of years that they've been here.
I think I hear a motion.
Yes, I do.
That ability, so that's what.
Mr. Not So New Hafner.
I was just speaking to Mr. Dugan, but.
See, that's why I didn't know how the time frame was most of the other people here, so.
I nominate Joseph Gould.
I second.
I second that one too.
Third.
All in favor?
Well, you don't, so sir, just to follow the guidelines.
Follow the
You just
guidelines.
need a motion and you need a second.
Okay.
And then if there are any other nominations, you will request those now.
Okay. So I guess I read, I move to nominate Commissioner Joe Gould.
Well, sir,
No.
are there any other motions from the,
any
Chris's absence, I'm acting as his liaison. If there are no other nominations from the floor for chairperson for FY 2026, you can now say that you move to close the nominations, but you must offer the opportunity for there to be any other nominations.
Is any other nominations besides Commissioner Gould?
No.
Going once. Any more nominations besides Commissioner Gould? Okay. Closed, right?
You need a motion to close it?
Yes.
Okay, I move to nominate Commissioner Joe Gould for the position of board chairman for
I'm sorry.
fiscal year 2026.
Have to close the nominations first.
So Commissioner,
All right, need a motion to close.
Close the nomination for the position of board chairperson, and then we just need a second and then a vote on that.
All right. Move to close the nomination for board chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, nominations have been closed. Right, yeah, so now I move to nominate Joe Gould for the position of board chairman for fiscal year 2026.
I'll second.
Just all those in favor, there's not a second needed.
Okay.
All in
All say
favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right. Joe, you're the chairman for 2026. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir. I'll do my best on
Good job.
Okay, now we move to open the floor to nominations for the position of vice chairman for fiscal year 2026.
I'd like to make a motion that Commissioner Dugan be vice chairman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Commissioner Dugan. Any other nominations? Any other nomination for vice chairman? All in favor?
No, sir.
No, now we move to close it.
Second item in red.
Oh, okay. Move to close the nomination for the position of vice chairman, right? That, once the motion has been.
Yep, second that one.
Okay. Are we good? All right, move
So all in
to,
favor of closing the nomination?
all in favor? Aye. Nominations are closed. Mr. Dugan, vice chairman. All right, right here. Move to nominate Commissioner Keith Dugan for the position of board vice chairman for fiscal year 2026.
So,
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it, right?
That is it, sir. Congratulations,
Thank
Commissioner.
Mr. Dugan.
All right, so I guess we move on to future agenda. Next meeting is July 24th. Now we can go to commissioner time. Anybody have anything they want to say?
I'd just like to say I've only been here a year, but it's been a pleasure, Roy, working beside you. I think you've done the commission well. Even though you only got a few months as chairperson, you did well.
Well, it was,
Don't be a stranger.
But, all right. Need a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
I'll second.
We are adjourned. Last time.